Pinocchio, retold from the Carlo Quality Original by Tanya Zimmersky, illustrated by Lucy Carvino. Sterling Children's Books, New York. Chapter 6. The Fairy and the All-Knowing Nose. It was a good thing for a certain dangling puppet that, just at that moment, the pale and kind fairy happened to look out her window again, filled with pity at seeing Pinocchio hanging from a tree. She clapped her hands together sharply 3 times and summoned her friend, a large falcon. "Please go and break the rope that birds that poor puppet, that binds that poor puppet," she said. "Then lay him gently down on the grass." Once Pinocchio was safely lying on the ground, Fairy clapped her hands twice more. A magnificent poodle appeared, walking on his hind legs and wrapped in silk and velvet. "Poodle," Fairy said, "please go to that poor puppet lying in the grass, lift him tenderly, and bring him back here to me." The poodle agreed, but instead of trotting over a regular dog, he took Fairy's coach. The coach's lining was as soft as whipped cream and chocolate pudding, and it was pulled by 100 pairs of perfect white mice. When Pinocchio reached the house, Fairy gently laid him under a soft white sheet. To make sure he was all right, Fairy called some of the county's most famous doctors, which include the crow, the owl, and the cricket, to come and look at the puppet. Feeling Pinocchio's pulse, his nose, and his little wooden toe, Dr. Crow concluded that the poor puppet was dead, unless, that is, he is not dead, in which case he is almost certainly alive. "I am sorry and contracted my very famous colleague," said Dr. Owl, "but I would have to say this puppet alive, unless, that is, he is not alive, in which case he is probably definitely dead." "And what about you, Dr. Cricket?" Fairy asked. Cricket replied that the wisest doctors, when they didn't know what they were talking about, knew enough to keep their mouths shut. "But I don't know this puppet," Cricket added. And dead or alive, in my medical opinion, he is a rascal of the very worst kind." "What do you mean?" Fairy asked. "He is disobedient son who is always breaking his poor father's heart." Under the white sheet, Pinocchio heard these words and, very much alive, began to cry. After the doctors left, Fairy noticed that Pinocchio had a terrible fever. She tried to give him some aspirin. "Yuck!" the puppet said. "That medicine is bitter. I would like some sugar instead." "You can have some sugar afterward," Fairy said. "No, before. You promised to take your medicine if I give you the sugar first," Fairy asked. Pinocchio promised, but he was lying. Even though Fairy gave him some sugar, he still would not take his medicine. "You must take your medicine or you could die," Fairy cried. "I don't care. I'd rather die than taste that awful medicine," Pinocchio said. At these words, 4 black rabbits burst into the room carrying a small black coffin on their shoulders. "We heard you were ready to die," the largest rabbit said. "We have come for you." "But I'm not dead yet," Pinocchio cried. "You will be in just a few minutes if you don't take your medicine." Pinocchio swallowed his medicine in one quick gulp. Almost immediately, he felt as good as new. He had to admit, when one is sick, even better medicine is a very sweet thing. Then Fairy asked Pinocchio to tell her how he had got mixed up with the Mudgers. Where are the gold pieces now? Fairy asked when he had finished his story. I lost them, Pinocchio answered Pinocchio. But he was lying again. The pieces were in his pocket. As he spoke, an interesting thing had happened. His nose instantly grew 2 inches. Where did you lose them? Fairy asked. In the woods, Pinocchio said, lying again. And wouldn't you know it, his nose promptly grew 2 inches longer still. I mean, I did not lose them, he stuttered. I swallowed them when I took the medicine. At that third lie, Pinocchio's nose grew so long that he could not even turn around. If he turned to the right, he banged into the bed or windows. To the left, he hit the walls or the door. If he raised his nose, he would poke Fairy's eyes. Like most liars, he was stuck. Watching him struggle, Fairy laughed. Why are you laughing? He asked. I am laughing at your lies, she said. How do you know I am lying? Then Fairy explained that there are 2 kinds of lies, those with short legs and those with long noses. It was quite clear which kind he had told. Pinocchio was so ashamed he wanted to run away, but his nose was so long he couldn't fit through the door.